afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Spiritual Fitness. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today, Peace in the Eye of the Storm, with your host, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. We're close to 25 members on Zoom and close to 50 members on Facebook. I have Shweka helping me out in managing social media today. Good afternoon, Vaish. Welcome to Spiritual Fitness.
Thank you very much, Jay. I'm so happy to be back here in this beautiful room with all of you. Thank you very much for joining in for a little respite in the afternoon time where we can take some time to use the facility we have as humans to really think about our ultimate purpose, introspect a little bit and find our center of balance. And today I'm going to be talking about 3 secrets to finding balance and serenity even amidst the storm. And you can take that storm however you wish. There's more or less of it, depending on how much attention we give to the movements in the world. And, well, not and, but it's a fact that as we move through the world, we're going to find ups and downs. So these secrets are basic principles that I've derived from the teachings of the wisdom texts that I'm passing on to you. And they're universal, non-sectarian. They're ways that we can look at our existential situation and our actual, what is called dharma, our sanatan, our permanent identity in comparison with the life situation that we find ourselves in now and gravitate towards our life, which is always a safe place. It's the eye of the storm, a place in which we always find shelter. So as we are all gathering in the room here, let's take a few minutes for some meditation. Meditation's a word and a concept I'm going to talk a little bit more about today because I've had some realizations about it in the ways in which we can incrementally implement it in our lives, because it may be difficult to actually sit down and meditate. I don't know if any of you have found this, but what is that voice or that impulse that comes when I sit down to try to introspect, to try to meditate, and then there's a voice that says, get up, go, you're not finished. Not finished with what, sir? Everything, keep moving. You don't have the time to sit here right now. Don't you know you have emails? Don't you know you forgot so many things that people are waiting on you? If you've ever heard that voice, you're not alone. It's a natural layer of conversation that goes on in the mind at a certain level. And I have a few thoughts derived from the teachings of Patanjali and the Bhagavad Gita, which may help incrementally come to a position where we naturally start to feel the effects of meditation without actually sitting down deliberately. I'm not saying that that's not a good idea. It is, but it can be discouraging to sit down and say, and hear that voice and the impulse and then say, oh, I can't do this. So I'll be talking about that a little bit today too. At first, let's try some introspection. And to do this, we can just sit up a little straighter than we were a second ago. It's miraculous how the mind comes to attention and takes things seriously when you just lift your spine a tiny, tiny bit and try closing your eyes. Maybe the last time you did that was just before you woke up this morning, but if you try it again right now in the middle of the day, you'll notice that the mind is saying what's going on. And what we're going to do is take a moment just to notice where we are and how we're situated. So if you'll keep an alert mind, but relax, and then bring your attention to your breathing. And just breathe naturally and in a way that you're feeling that you're nourishing the cells in your body, which are taking in all the oxygen every time you inhale. For every cell in your body, it's a huge event when you bring in that oxygen from the environment. They're thanking you. And exhaling, we're carrying out a lot of the waste that the cells are winnowing out from our system. And this is going on all the time, but for a moment, just appreciate it, that that's given to us as a gift, this breath. And breathe and appreciate your breath. And now, if you take your right hand and try to find where your heart is, where you can feel it moving, pumping, and just put your hand over your heart. And just as you may have not been noticing your breath, you may also not have noticed that your heart is working away. You could actually count the number of times it's beaten since you came into this body. And just notice that it's going on automatically, serving you. It's distributing that oxygen throughout your body. And you might objectify your heart by noticing that it's a pump. And you're not a pump, but you're the noticer of the pump. And if you add the element of gratitude, appreciate your heart and what it's doing for you, service that it's rendering. That area is also known to be the seat of emotion. People say, I felt it in my heart. And there's a truth to that, even from an empiric point of view. And now notice that your breath and your heart are synchronized. They're working together. And then just imagine for a moment the hundreds and thousands of separate organs, including cells within your body. They're working together to keep this body going. There's homeostasis. Temperature is self-adjusting. Your weight gets regulated according to an algorithm. How much you're eating, the body will adjust accordingly. And it's all happening in a miraculous way beyond our notice. Even if we don't notice, it goes on. And just take a few moments, seconds to marvel at the fact that you're in this miraculous body as a traveler. Also in the heart region, the yoga texts say there's a unstruck vibration, which has the resonance of a mantra, Om. So while you're holding your heart, you can feel the vibration. We'll just say the mantra together behind muted mics 3 times. Now, if you'll bring your attention back to your breath, then rub your palms together and bring some energy to your external body and open your eyes and come back into the Zoom room. A simple practice every day of designating time for introspection, seeing that you're in a body and resonating with your spiritual self is very balancing and powerful. Actually helps to solve a lot of problems because problems arise within the mind. I'm worried about what's going to happen. I barely ever look at what's actually happening now, which is always okay. So this is one of the bhakti yoga practices, is carving out time every day for some introspection and mantra meditation. And this, even a little bit on a regular basis, like drops a day, can wear the stone away. The stone-like persistence of thoughts that are disturbing our life. And I'm going to show a few slides. Oh, Anna, happy Friday to you too. Anna DT. Thank you. Happy Friday to everybody. Let's look at a few slides just to stimulate some thought and conversation. And you can write in the chat box if you have exclamations to make, if you have questions, if you want to reflect anything from the talk itself, then please go ahead in there, or feel free to also just speak up in the Zoom room. You know, those of you who have been here, it's a safe environment to just speak up and we can talk. Nicole has a realization. He'd like to share it now. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So when I was doing the meditation, the word you mentioned, right? Like the heart is beating, and it's a gift. The air we are breathing, that is a gift. And what I suddenly realized is all the material situation around me, for my case, uh, indirectly indicates that what you are, what you are doing as of now, it's not okay. Somehow you have to be in the competition where you have to make yourself better than what you are. Whereas what you mentioned, your instructions actually give a very good consolation that what you are, it's fine. Don't just try to join the mad race and keep on getting this worries about not being not in okay state. Yeah, so that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicole. And someone told me the other day, if you win the rat race, you're still a rat.
Yes.
There are modalities we've talked about, otherwise known as the gunas, and these are dominating forces in this world. Sattva, which is the highest of those modes, is clarifying, and it also gives us a clear idea that we exist and that we are something. In rajas, the next modality, there's a sense that I have to become something more. I'm always trying to improve. No matter what situation I reach, there's always the next one to reach for. And it's the mode of activity. And as far as desires go, there's never a point at which I'm fulfilled. I get one thing and I have to upgrade constantly, sort of like the smartphone race. That's all you got? Come on. You got to be there's, it's got to do more than that, right? That's not good enough. And then tamas is the lowest mode where no light comes in, and we forget completely about our self-interest and the self-interest of others, our combined self-interest and so forth, and we become inert. So these modes are always competing for supremacy, and there's a way in which we can cultivate sattva. From sattva, there's a vision. We can see more clearly the difference between ourselves and the bodies, and the way we respond to the world becomes more enlightened in that modality. So it's important. Thanks for bringing that up. There is some more, right?
Yes, Yen Meng says that I meditate before I get out of bed in the morning and at night before going to sleep. Helps me not to worry about what could happen or may happen.
Such good points and nice times to meditate at the beginning and the end of the day. And also, I like your point about how this worry is something that we're projecting, what might happen in the future. But in the present, at the point of power is always in the present moment. And in the present, if we notice, we're always okay, no matter what's going on around us.
And everyone did like what we will become once you win the rat race. They all liked it. You will still be a rat. And then Josun says, do you worry about meditating while lying down versus sitting up?
Definitely, because it's always a possibility you can fall asleep lying down. The sitting posture is actually helpful because there's a way in which you can stay alert but relaxed. Hatha yoga and doing asanas is meant to make our bodies supple enough so that we can sit for a while. As otherwise, if you sit down and you feel really uncomfortable, it's hard to even concentrate. So that's what Patanjali Muni in his treatise, the Yoga Sutras, says is the purpose of asanas, which have now become more oriented towards, in many places, some places, the exercise itself. Nothing against exercise, but the original purpose is important. So yeah, lying down, sitting up. There are some important protocols for meditating that can really help.
And then Arya says, I think it's a truncated name. How can we stop wanting the new thing, the new phone, the new car?
Ariana,
Arya?
maybe. Yeah. Well, let's get into that. It's a good segue to talk about some of the points we have for today.
Yes.
So I'm going to go into the three secrets, and Ariana, you to say whether they help or not in answering the question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The first secret, when I take it that everything that happens to me is for my personal refinement, I make peace with adversity. I'm never disappointed, nor do I lack opportunity. So maybe it's a little subtle humor at the end, nor do I lack opportunity, because whoever has a dearth of adversity, there's always some kind of competing element, some change that takes place that was against my plan. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know I have it in my mind, things are going to go this way, everyone's going to be here forever. And then when things change, I become alarmed, disturbed, and so forth. So there's plenty of opportunity to practice this mindset. So what is it again? It's that I change my expectation of the world. If my expectation is that everything is going to go according to my plan, I'll always be disappointed. But if I take the way that I'm interacting with the world as an opportunity for refinement. I make peace with adversity. Adversity becomes my friend because it's my opportunity to refine myself, which in one sense is to understand the purpose of adversity and at once also deal with it in an equal-minded way. This picture, by the way, is Dondoyaki, a spiritual bonfire during the Japanese New Year, which happens every year. It's a ritual. They throw in a lot of the iconic figures from the year before that were meant to bring good luck, sort of an idea of starting over. So this is a famous Sanskrit saying that gives direction for those who have a human body. So if you get an appliance in the mail through Amazon Prime or something like that, you hope that there's a clear manual inside. Otherwise, how do I assemble this thing? You mean I have to assemble this? How does it work? Which button do I push? You want a simple and clear step-by-step guide written by somebody who knows how to do technical writing. And then it becomes clear. So there is such a guide in the wisdom texts, and it's called the Vedanta Sutra. Sutra means a very simple phrase that has deep meaning. And this is the first in the entire book of many sutras. And it says, Atato Brahma Jignasa. So in Sanskrit, that means that now that you've attained the human body, in other words, you've taken on a special form, you have a portal through which you can do a lot more than you have before in other situations. That is, other situations we've talked about, transmigration, being situated in other bodies. So jignasa means to inquire and to ask. And Brahma means the greatest thing, the ultimate interest in life. So it's really saying, take this opportunity to inquire about your ultimate interests. There are a lot of minor interests that are can be solved easily. They're already being solved in simple ways. So don't overcomplicate, but do be high-minded and think about your ultimate interest. So the human experience is meant for refinement. This is following the same train of thought. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. You've all heard that before, I'm sure. And this is the perspective of the wisdom text, that the human body is a vehicle, and we're using this vehicle for a little while. And what's it meant for? Where's it meant to take us? It's an opportunity through which we can refine ourselves. And let's look at refinement. The definition is to remove impurities or unwanted elements from a substance. So there may be ways in which we're troubled. Our minds are troubled, our hearts are troubled emotionally by things that we've picked up over time that stay in our consciousness. These are an accumulation of various experiences, associations, learnings that we've taken in, and they form a composite of who we are and what our psychology is. So there's according to the yoga teachings, a necessity to clean the mirror of the mind so that we can see our purpose clearly, we can feel some peace in life. So where does disturbance come from? There was in the 5,000-year-old treatise on bhakti yoga, there was a young boy, 5 years old, who was recognized as one of the great teachers of the process of bhakti. In fact, he spent a lot of time teaching his classmates at school. And these were recorded conversations passed down through many generations. And one of his teachings, which always sticks with me, He said, there's no problems in this world other than one's own uncontrolled mind and senses. Just take that in for a second. There are no problems in this world other than one's own uncontrolled mind and senses. This is a very responsible perspective that the change is up to me, and the way that I'm being disturbed by the world is actually coming from myself. It's coming from my inner condition, not the outer condition, which is subjective. Things may come and go, but I react to them according to the way I am. So here are a couple verses which talk about those who have made their minds peaceful, even amidst the storm outside, because inside they've refined their minds, their senses, they've controlled the senses and the mind. Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter on meditation, Krishna says, as a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his or her meditation on the transcendent self. So you can think of that image of a flame in a room that is not turbulent with air movement, and therefore it stays perfectly still. So the mind can be like that also, peaceful. Now, I mentioned earlier about this incremental path to meditation, and that is the state of having the mind be peaceful, like the undisturbed flame. But before I go to this, I want JM to tell about an upcoming workshop that we have, and then I'm going to go into the second part.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. Let me quickly bring the slide up.
We have a special breakout session for those of you who want to go into more detail that's coming up, and JM's going to direct us to that.
Yes. So as Vaish mentioned, we are very excited to announce the long-awaited Discover Spiritual Fitness workshop. So I'll share my screen to give some details. So do you feel like you're living with Mind, the tiger? Do you want to learn the timeless secrets to befriending your mind? We are bringing the exclusive Discover Spiritual Fitness workshop on Sunday, February 28th at 10:30 a.m. for 2 hours. In this workshop, we'll discuss the various timeless practices and wisdom which understand the nature of the mind and how you can work with the mind so that collectively, how in life of Pi, the Pi befriended tiger and he crossed the ocean, how you can also befriend your mind and achieve your purpose. So this is on Sunday, February 28th at 10:30 a.m. More details will be coming forth over next session. Meanwhile, this is an exclusive workshop for a limited audience only, based on first come, first serve. In case you're interested, please go to register at www.vaishishikadas.com/askvaish. I'll quickly show how to do that. So if you go to vaishishikadas.com, Ask Vaish, you will see the Ask Vaish portal, and then in that there is if you scroll down, you'll see a form below. And here, next step, there is an option to discover spiritual fitness workshop. So just select that, give your consent, and please ask to register, and we'll be happy to register you. We will have an official page launch sometime next week for registration. But meanwhile, if you're interested, please register. And as mentioned, it's exclusive for a limited audience. So we are pretty excited. We have a series of panelists will be there, and they'll be discussing the ancient wisdom and practices that will be very beneficial. Anything more you wanted to add, Vaish?
Yeah, a lot of experience coming in here. Those who have been practicing and teaching will be on the panel. The workshop oftentimes is a lot longer, but they've condensed the concepts into the couple of hours, and I know what's in it. I'll be participating to a certain degree, and I've watched the program, and it's very helpful. Actually, I found it extremely stimulating. There are practical ways that you'll learn uh, the techniques of helping to control your mind and meditation and so forth. Mantra meditation is introduced at the end as well.
Yeah. So I'll be putting the URL in the chat box, and yeah, looking forward to your participation. Thanks.
Okay. I'll make a few more points here, but I'm really eager for conversation. That's the best part of this program for me. And coming back to the slides, I'm going to read a couple of, oh, right. We're on the slide, which talks about actually, you can leave it here for a second. And I'm going to mention this concept to you. I began speaking in the beginning about how sitting down for introspection meditation may be interrupted by a level of conversation our mind has with us that says get back up again, just a inordinate urge to get up and move. This is coming from that middle mode, rajas. So how can we be more serene and peaceful in our lives, even as we're moving around the world? And even as it feels like the walls are closing in on us, in various ways in the world, geopolitically, the health crises that are upon us, so many elements that could be disturbing. Is that true? Are there a few that are available that could be disturbing right now? Okay, a few of you are nodding. So this is a very practical point, but it's also mentioned in the Yoga Sutras, but I've been experimenting with this for a while. And I can attest personally, I'm giving my personal testimonial about its efficacy and how you can feel better in your life, less stressed, more serene, and more able to actually meditate. And here's how. Start with eliminating the external disturbances that you have a choice to tune out. Now let's see the slide. And as you gradually do this in layers, you don't have to do it all at once because you may be used to a certain thing, but at least try it. There are various ways in which we're taking in noise. Noise actually comes, it's a nautical phrase, it means nausea, seasickness. We're making ourselves sick in our mind. And so I recommend INR, otherwise known as incremental noise reduction. Start here, and you'll find that actually your walk around the block when you use INR becomes more meditative. You start to take in the beauty of the world. The peacefulness actually rushes into your mental system when you do this. I promise you, it's very powerful. So here are three places to look at in your life. You have to do it inventory. And if you get good at this, you can become a certified NRS. That's a noise reduction specialist. And I recommend that you get this certification. The first is the sound, what you listen to. What are you listening to? Notice, because the sound that you listen to is creative. It's determining the quality of your consciousness, guaranteed. The type of sound you listen to, the quality of it will determine the quality of your life. Also, psychological noise. What are you thinking about? And third, visual. What are you looking at? These three things are adjustable. So I'll give you an example with sound and even visual. The news that goes on, and it comes through various portals like, I don't know, on the internet, TV, if anybody ever still has a TV, I'm not sure how many people use those these days. But there's other channels like phones and through computers and things like that. There are channels that if you turn them on, they're going to give you the most caustic kind of sound vibration. It's like, here's what I compare it to: a boiling cauldron of problems. It will scald you. It'll scald your mind listening to it. And at the same time, there's not a lot that you can do about it. You can develop an existential angst that I want this to change, but how are you going to change it? It's moving in a wave, and it feels very overwhelming. So just try this, and that is, if you haven't already, try tuning out the news cycle. The various outlets for news nowadays have a vested interest, to say the least. There are ways in which news outlets are eager for likes and people listening to it because they'll get paid more. There's advertising involved. They have to sustain themselves. I'm not saying it's all malevolent. I'm just saying that it's a built-in kind of bias that they have. And it has to be sensationalized for us to watch because everyone's competing for sensationalism. And so it becomes a race to the bottom of how many gory details or how one can frame a conversation so that it will agitate your mind. This is, I would propose, the opposite of the meditative environment. And if you just tune it out, just close the lid on that boiling cauldron for a while, try it and see. I promise you're going to notice a difference. Don't let any of it in. And of course, you can't, don't be a fanatic. Maybe if somebody brings something up about what happened in the news, oh, okay, thank you, that's interesting. But don't mainline it. Don't take it in as your direct source of entertainment or way of trying to balance your life, because it won't do that. It will do the opposite. So that's one thing that you can try. It's very, very practical, and I promise you it works. The second one is, back to our list, psychological and what we think about. There are paradigm. This is Stephen Covey's. He said there are our circle of influence and there is our circle of concern. So if you stay out of your circle of concern and in your circle of influence in your mind, ask yourself, can I do something about this? If it's actionable from my point of reference, then go ahead, keep it if you think it's on your priority list. And if it's not, then feel free to let it go. That's noise. Get it out. Become a noise reduction specialist. And the third is visual noise. If you have things in your environment that you're looking at regularly that are not serving your priorities in life, get rid of them. There are many, many books about this, and it's actually a fact that physically, if you reduce the amount of visual noise in your environment, you'll be more focused and you'll feel happier. So these are practical steps, and you don't have to do them all at once. Don't start dragging everything out of your house and alarm your family. But I recommend at least incrementally trying to reduce the amount of news that you listen to or any other kind of programming that's really not for your ultimate good. And then think and prioritize. What am I listening to in my mind? What am I holding in there? And finally, simplify your environment. Let's hear a few reflections on these. They're very practical.
Yeah, I I just I just wanted to share like a couple of weeks ago. I think maybe it's 3 months ago. You brought up this suggestions about tuning out the news, which was very disturbing. Somehow, I don't know how it happened, but I had a bookmark of all the news channels on my laptop. When there are meetings, I always like, boring meetings. Then you go and scan Times of India, Indian Express, all the Indian newspaper, and then BBC, CNN, Fox, I mean, whatever, Washington, New York, I mean, all of them. But for 3 months, I'm happy to report that I have not visited any one of those sites even once directly. So it's just in the morning time, there's no agitation about the news, which is while you're in a meeting or you're doing your other work or you're doing meditation, it always, spins your head, oh, something is that happening, what is going to happen in that one. So somehow that is happening. I'm really, really happy. I hope I continue, but I know you always say celebrate little successes. So that's why I shared it. I'm also skeptical sometimes. What happened if tomorrow I celebrate and tomorrow I started watching? So I just thought to share that one.
Yeah, and you can really get on a roll with this too. I can attest to the earlier part of my life. I became a monk when I was 16, and I didn't listen to news or anything for 13 years. I was totally focused and in the ashram. I had no idea about disco music. I missed that whole era. There were people that told me about successful television shows that went on, and I was like, I don't know what that is. I have no idea. And I not only didn't I miss anything when I look back, I actually, that was the richest part of my life where I was able to really focus on self growth and development and memorization of things that were important to me, and doing just service with a peaceful mind. So I know that with the experiences over an extended period of time, and yes, you're right, little victories are helpful. And if you get a glimpse of the peace that comes from being selective and letting in noise, or keeping it out rather, then you get inspired for it because it actually tastes good. Like I just notice if I'm walking around, I can, see the horizon and feel like, wow, I'm in a universe. I'm not so distracted by so much noise. Blanca, that question you asked, that was from Stephen Covey in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, I believe is the name. He gives this chart, 2 circles, a big one and a small one. The small one is our circle of influence, and the big one is our circle of concern, and that can grow unlimitedly. Yes, there are more comments. Anyone like to weigh in?
I will, if you don't mind. My name's Denise. I'm
Hi,
here in
Denise.
Hillsboro, Oregon. I will say for the first time in my life, I have really felt overwhelmed by just the outside world, everything going on. I feel like there is constant negativity, even on the sides that I would say I'm more similar with their beliefs. Even that has gotten ugly. And I feel like it's ugliness versus ugliness. So nobody is listening to each other. So I actually noticed like my mind was not concentrating. I wasn't sleeping well. I had just constant worry. So I got off of all social media, which I am at the age where like everyone uses it. I got off of it about 6 months ago. I got on it for 1 week and got back on it for 1 week, and I noticed such a huge difference, and it changed my sleep patterns. And it's interesting because I've told everybody I'm no longer on it. I even made a comment, but everybody I speak with, they're like, oh, yeah, I did this. And they're like, well, I posted it. And I say, oh, I'm not on there. And they're like, but I posted it. Like people are still having a hard time understanding that, like, I do not know what you're doing because I literally removed it from my phone. I removed it from that. And this workshop here has helped me open up my mind to so many things. I have been reading books. I have been studying. Like this really has changed the peacefulness of my life. So I want to thank you for opening me up to a lot of these practices that are new to me. But it has helped. And I got off all news. I didn't even know we were getting this $600 stimulus. I saw it in my bank account. I said, what is this? So then I Googled it and I said, oh, that's what's going on. And I've never been somebody to quiet it because I always thought, well, it's my responsibility responsibility to know, but I have found that I also have a responsibility to my home to keep peace in it. And that is where I had to decide, is it my responsibility to know everything that's going on in political world and everything going on, everyone's opinions on everything? Or is it my responsibility to feel peace at my home, give my daughter the time that she needs? And I chose us. And sometimes I feel guilty for that, but in the end, I know that I feel better, and that is where I'm trying to put my focus. So hearing you say that you've done this actually makes me feel less guilty that I have chosen this, because I keep thinking, oh, am I being ignorant by hiding myself? So thank you.
Wow, Denise, thank you very much. Fantastic. Hearing your personal experience is really edifying for all of us, definitely. And that's partly why we come together for this. And I'm not advocating that we become Luddites and eschew all technology, because there's a way in which anything can actually be used in service at a higher level. I mean, after all, right now we're using Zoom, and we're broadcasting simultaneously elsewhere on Facebook, but we're not feeling any adverse vibrations in this room. We're being careful. So everything has its useful higher purpose. Anna, please go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
And something is, I think, is the overload, because there is a lot of overload, and they try to put a lot of data, a lot of information in your mind, and this causes like in a sea where there is a lot of wind, and then you see the surface all struggling and moving. This is part of that, because for example, I quit watching news long time ago. I only kind of take a peek on the newspaper in the morning just to have a sense of what's going on. But I don't want, because if not, it is the same. At least in Costa Rica, it's the same morning, in mid on lunchtime, and then in the afternoon and in the evening. They're almost the same news, and always is focusing on only the bad things. And okay, they happen, but to me, there's more people doing good things that are not being even mentioned. So I don't want that vibes in my mind.
Key word you brought up, thank you very much. That was really helpful, was overload. And I made a little video about breaking news and how it breaks your concentration, it breaks your heart. And there's only so much bad news we can handle in a day. We're very sensitive as sentient beings, as humans. We have soft hearts, really. And if we introduce unlimited bad news from all over the world, why? In our own realm, we have enough to deal with in the world of change and dealing with people who are undergoing suffering and so forth. So do we have to pipe it in from everywhere and hear about everyone who's having a hard time in certain places? Of course, all these things, if they're channeled properly, it's not to be put a blind eye to the suffering in the world. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is do what you can, or take in what you need to take in for your ultimate purpose. And if you hone that towards service, which is the next part of my presentation, you'll find that it becomes satisfactory. And so I'm just going to make a couple more points on a segue from Anna's very helpful points that she made. And that is going into the third secret, which is to just look at a blank screen like this. I'm just kidding. Okay. I think we talked so disparagingly about technology. There's some backlash. Yeah, the third segment, the third secret. I'm only on secret 2. Okay, and that is the only way to find peace and balance in a world of things is to use all things in a spirit of service. And let me just frame this philosophically and how it lines up on the next slide, with several of the worldviews or the spiritual practices or the ways that people think of spiritual practice. This is the next slide.
Yes.
Okay, so really it's a question of, do we have things or things have us? And use things to serve people or use people to serve things? Which seems more reasonable, humanitarian. So here are three very broad categories of which can be put in the category of spiritual practices. One, well, not spiritual practices on the far left. That's called boga. These are my things. I cordon off all my things from other people's things. I fight over them. This is my property, not yours. Countries do it collectively. And this is one of the ways in which we fall into default mode, mine, mine, mine. On the far right, tyaga, which means I give up all things. All these things, they're not mine. Renounced, I don't touch things at all. I stay aloof completely. The middle path, the path of yoga, especially bhakti, is I use all things for service. This is the path of dedication. So this is a path recommended for those who are in a world of things. Unless you choose to renounce and walk away from everything, which is actually not the most recommended because it's very difficult to do. So let's look at the next slide. Bhagavad Gita says, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. So there's a way in which we can live like an ocean, and that is, although we have desires coming into our mental system, we develop a kind of equilibrium. And how is that done? It's done through the concept of using what comes to us in service. I'm not claiming it as mine, and I'm also not rejecting it. I'm seeing how I can use it for a higher purpose. This is the balanced path. So this is a rule of simplicity, and it is keep all things that you can use in service. Keep all things that you can use in service. So if you do an inventory of the things that you have in your life, and of course, I know that's a very generic term, things, but it means non-living beings, non-living entities, those things that don't have life. If you don't need them for service, then consider them as superfluous and perhaps something that's slowing down your life and distracting you. So that's the second secret. And finally, secret number 3, the bedrock of healthy relationships is respect. And this goes into a very powerful metaphysical principle. And that is that, well, first of all, the definition of respect is a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, and achievements. But there's a higher vision of respect also, besides just seeing people for their present abilities according to the body that they might have. And it's called anupashyati in Sanskrit. Anu means to follow, and pashyati means to see at a higher level, a higher context. So this is how it's described in one of the oldest books in the world called the Upanishads. One who sees the spiritual spark within every living being, regardless of his or her particular body, is never bewildered. Is never bewildered. So this is a kind of vision, which we'll see in the next slide, that Bhagavad Gita says a similar thing. The spiritually wise, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle person, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a person who is down and out. So there's this understanding that everyone has a common spiritual nature. And look at the varieties of bodies we've put on the screen here. Animals, humans, plants, bugs, whatever life there is has a commonality behind just the external form. Racism, speciesism, designating one group as better than the other based on the particular body that they have is a kind of, it's missing the point that actually our commonality rests in who we are as spiritual beings. So the principle of respect for all beings for their inherent spiritual nature, and there's another level of operation, which is this: interact appropriately with each being according to his or her present existential status, or PES, present existential status. Because although everyone's spiritual externally, for instance, that bear on the right-hand side, as cute as it looks, if I go over and try to cuddle, I mean, I don't know exactly their nature, but I know that and maybe let's take the leopard on the high on the he or she may not appreciate my my affection externally. That doesn't mean I can't respect and see that this is a spiritual entity that has its own quota and its right to live just as I do. And it is internally, its inherent spiritual nature is the same as mine. So this is the idea given in the Upanishads, the way to show respect at a very deep level for every living being. So this is also another way of looking at respect and the levels. A skeptic sees only a person's past. Oh, I did this in the past, that's the way they are. A reasonable person, and this is my subjective value system, so don't mind. A reasonable person goes by the past and the present. That's reasonable. But a great person, called a Mahatma, goes by a person's potential, what they could do in the future. So there's this principle that is given in the spiritual teachings of the Upanishads, which is look for the potential and fan the spark. So there's a spiritual spark within everyone. And if you make it your business to encourage, to fan that spark, that's a worthy occupation. Try to encourage people. How much should you encourage them? Encourage the heck out of everybody. Just try it for 24 hours, write it down on a little piece of paper, and then remind yourself, what is my duty for the next 24 hours? And encourage the heck out of everybody and just see how they react and how you feel by trying to fan the spark within those who have a spark that's fannable. So let's just come back and see if there's any remarks or reflections, anything that you heard that you want to bring up. Uh-oh, Yun Ming had to drop early, so we won't hear from her. But what else is there, JM?
We have a few questions and reflections. I'll quickly read them. The first one is from Jesse. Someone told me early on in COVID that looking at social media is not a break. It is still a series of decisions that your brain has to sift through. I have since stopped visiting social media during the workday, and it has given me so much mental clarity.
Bravo. Well done.
Regina says, how do you juggle boundaries between gaining mental peace and experiencing FOMO, fear of missing out?
Well, you know, there's this old saying, go within or go without. And it's sort of a play on words, but if you're getting your nourishment internally from your practice, like I have a friend, he's so internally focused. He's so developed spiritually in his meditations and his spiritual practices that anytime I'm around him, I feel like he's not missing anything. In fact, I'm missing it because I'm not on his level. And, when you're getting something inwardly, you're not going to miss anything outwardly. Really, you won't. Because as we've described in previous classes, the experience actually of your Atma or your spiritual self and the environment that supports that is so nourishing that you'll feel there's no greater gain. You're really not missing anything else. But on a practical way, do what you have to do. Don't get overwhelmed, as Ariana, I think, said. Don't overwhelm yourself with too much information. But if you need it, use it in service.
We do have run out of time. There are a few more reflections. I don't know if you want to.
What did Wolf say? He put one down there. Someone said,
Sure, I'll take that one. Wolf said, news are really old. They already happened.
It already happened. Nice.
Yeah.
Better to be in the present moment.
And Subhadra says, there is a book, Hate Incorporation, How the Media Makes Us Despise Each Other by Matt Type. I think it goes into that detail. As Kasu says, any tips how do we deal if someone is trying to put us down and that affects our self-confidence? What will be the right way to address this?
Well, if you can, get a new set of friends. And also, really, true self-esteem comes from spiritual practice. Because when you see, there's a story in one of the yoga sutras, in one of the books on spiritual instruction, about a person who is maligned by a king. He's a regular worker, apparently, but he's actually an enlightened soul. And the king tries to enroll him in carrying his palanquin. And because he's an enlightened soul, as he's carrying the palanquin, he's jostling the king because he's trying to avoid stepping on ants. So the king starts berating him and said, "What's the matter? You're not strong enough to carry it. Are you foolish?" And all these kind of chastisements he takes. And when he starts speaking to the king, he said, "Actually, I'm neither fat nor stupid or anything, because I'm not my body." And so the king realizes, "Oh, I'm talking to a self-realized person," and he becomes embarrassed. So the lesson in that is, when we become centered on our permanent identity that's beyond the body, then we become more or less impervious to the kinds of ways that people may try to disparage our bodily image, because we really aren't our bodies. We're something that's just inhabiting the body temporarily. Of course, that's a big jump, but I mean, there's a lot more to say about that, and I've already been informed that we're out of time. So well, more about that later.
Promila says, thank you for today's talk too. Very insightful. Happy Friday. Have to drop off. I will catch the recording.
I dropped back in.
Yay! Lucky for us. Thank you for coming back. Okay, well, let's end there. And just as a summary of the 3 secrets, the first one is, can anyone say really quick?
Is it sound?
Reduction specialist.
Yeah.
Incremental noise reduction.
Yeah, the NRS.
Yeah. If you want to become a certified specialist at incrementally reducing noise, then you can join that one. And what was the second one? Don't feel bad. Even I don't remember. What's that? What was that? Oh, here, I have them available here on the side. Secret 1 is
the secret 2 is use everything in the spirit of service. Try to use the world things for service.
That's right. We're meant for refinement. Second one, use everything for service. And the third one, bedrock of healthy relationships is respect. And we didn't come to the full end of that one, which talking about it, but we'll continue in another time. There's a lot to talk about. Thank you very much, everybody. We've been ending these sessions by saying what yogis high in the Himalayas say to each other when they see each other outside their cave, which is to keep the transcendental vibration going. And it goes like this: Hari Bol. So we're all kind of in little caves here. So we can say to each one of the yogis in their caves, Hari Bol. You can unmute and everyone say Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Hari Bol.
Ball.
Oh, Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Hey, Hari
Haribol.
Bol.
Haribol.
See you soon.
Haribo!
Oh.